There's a common trope in security that systems are compromised by sophisticated threat actors wearing hoodies that are breaking through layers of encryption with brute force. But in reality, most threat actors don't actually break in, they log in. They exploit a weak credential, a forgotten service, or management interface left exposed to the wrong network. Today, we are looking at the critical hardening steps for TrueNAS. We're going beyond simply setting a high entropy password and focusing on shrinking your attack surface. We will cover user restrictions, service interface bindings, and other settings to lock down your TrueNAS. But before we get started, here's a word from the sponsor of this video. This video is sponsored by Meter, the company bringing you full stack networks from the ground up. Meter delivers a complete networking stack, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one integrated solution. They design the hardware, they write the firmware, and they build software that can handle, deploy, and run support. For network engineers, that means deep control, real visibility, and fewer fragmented tools, without juggling multiple vendors or inflexible legacy providers. Whether it's a branch office, warehouse, campus, or data center, Meter is built to scale, and Meter is built for uptime. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring this video. Go to meter.com/LawrenceSystems to book a demo now. That's meter.com/LawrenceSystems to book a demo today. In the description below, you'll find a link to my forum post, which is a walkthrough guide for this particular video. I will be walking through all the steps in here, with the exception of one, which is disabling root. Root was the default user for older installs and does not get disabled with standard in-place upgrades. So if you've been in-place upgrading for a long time, maybe you still have root enabled, maybe you're still logging in as root, go ahead and disable that. I will be covering user permissions and user management, but that little particular step I won't actually do in a video because I'm doing a demo on a new install, but I wanted to put this advice here up front. The good news is security defaults are quite good on TrueNAS. Most of what we're going to be doing is covering those details that come after you add interfaces and want to restrict it to your specific network settings. So even though the management interface is by default bound to all interfaces, we're going to narrow it down in scope. We'll also show you how to put IP restrictions on here. And I said all of this is covered in detail, and all services, even though I say to disable them, if you're not using them, they're disabled by default. So a clean install of TrueNAS is actually pretty locked down, and it's often people who turn on the services and not realize that you can restrict or bind those services where some of the potential for security problems can come in. So it's not insecure by default. I want to make sure that's clear. They do have good security defaults, but there are settings to lock things down further. So let's start with the user management. I'll be doing this demonstration on version 25.10.2.1 Goldeye. This is the latest version available here in March of 2026. Before we get over to the credentials, we're going to go over to datasets, and I want to point out that I have a home directory. If you create secondary admins and want to add SSH keys, you will need to have a home directory within your storage pool. So to go here to the storage pool tank, and we want to add a dataset, all I did was add dataset home. I could type it home2 and hit save. There's not anything special you have to do when creating a home. The generic data preset is fine. So now let's go over here to credentials, users, and you see I have several different users already pre-configured and set up. The root built-in account is disabled by default on a new install. You log in as TrueNAS admin, and for most people, this is fine. You probably don't need to create other users. But if you wanted to, I have another admin, and this is for people that maybe want to disable root or not use TrueNAS_admin, which is the default, and call it another admin or your name-admin, whatever naming schema works for you. But the important thing is when we create these users, and we're going to go ahead and add, and we'll put in another admin too, choose the access. This is a full admin. We'll give them shell access, SSH access, set the password, put in the public key, and scroll down here to the bottom. It will not let you save this without a home directory. See, if we hit save, it says var empty, the user directory cannot be set. So we go here to home directory, we choose mount, tank, home, and then we say create home directory. It'll automatically add the user. And by default, it will set the permissions properly to 700. And one little UI element problem you may have noticed is it won't let me click save. That's because once it's had the error, you just have to edit this box and then click save, and it'll create the new user. Now I have other users created, such as a junior admin role. If we edit this role, you'll notice that it says read-only admin. If you're working in larger environments where you have junior admins, this is a nice role to create so they have read-only access to the system. This allows them to do diagnostics, troubleshooting, see the status of the system, but make no changes. So it's a lot lesser of a risk giving a junior admin access because they're able to see what's wrong, but they're not able to make any changes. Also of note, if you create an API key under one of these users, it will inherit the same user's permissions. So an API key created under this junior admin will also limit the access to read-only. I covered this before in my N8N video, which you'll find linked in the description below. Now coming back here to all the users, I have the user Tom, and he's a local user. So if we edit, we see the username Tom, SMB access. When creating users, and this is especially applying to many people who do this, set up your users without TrueNAS access. Because if you're using this to access shares, in the case I am with Tom, which does not need a home directory, we're just allowing SMB access, there's no need to have TrueNAS access for that same account. This separates the privileges. So if I'm logging in to a SMB share with Tom and that password, if that password ever got compromised, it would not allow someone to go to the web interface and log in because this user only has access to the SMB shares, which is a much better security practice. Now let's go over to System and Advanced Settings, and let's talk about two-factor authentication. If we scroll down here, all the way towards the bottom, you have the option for global two-factor authentication. You simply click configure. It lets you know that changing these things can be dangerous. I do recommend taking a backup, which was at the top if you didn't notice it. And you're allowed to set the two-factor authentication globally. Once enabled, users will be prompted to set up two-factor authentication next time they log in. They can choose to skip setup if desired. What's important to note is this window. This is a skew if the time is slightly off on your TrueNAS versus the app you're using for TOTP authentication. So you may want to set this skew up to at least 1 to adjust for any time differentials between your TrueNAS and your TOTP auth, so you're not having any problems. You can also turn this on for SSH, but it only works for SSH password authentication, not when using SSH key authentication. We're going to hit save. Let's go ahead and configure that 2FA secret. I'll actually save it into my password manager by doing a copy and paste of this key. And I want to note that there is no verification here that you have it right. So let's go ahead and log out and see if it works. And the login does work. Something of note, I saved it in my password manager because this is a demo. This is not something I recommend doing because if you save all your 2FA within your password manager, now you have one place where all of your credentials live. So if your password manager is compromised, then someone will be able to log directly into your TrueNAS. So do separate these out. I saved it, as I said, just because this is a demo. Now let's talk about locking down the console setup of TrueNAS. By default, when you open the console, when you're directly at the system that's running TrueNAS, you're able to configure network interfaces or even change the local admin password or create a one-time password for root or reset the system to configuration default. Obviously, it's really up to you to physically protect your TrueNAS from someone just walking up to it and start using it. But in the event they do, we want to make sure there's a password on that. So we go over here under System and then Advanced Settings, and we go to Configure, and we uncheck this box that says Show Text Console Without Password Prompt. So if we uncheck, we hit Save, we'll actually watch the console reload, and now it requires a login. Of note, even if you have the TrueNAS admin set up with 2FA, it will only require username and password to log in here. Now let's go to System and then General Settings because we want to start locking down the web interface itself. Now I have a few interfaces on this particular TrueNAS. So I have this IP of 172.16.16.36 and 10.13.13.206. We'll assume that this is my management network. So we're going to take it off the binding of all zeros, which means all interfaces, and bind it only and specifically to this interface IP. I also want to scroll down here. And I don't like that this is defaulted to HTTP without a redirect. So let's force it to redirect to HTTPS every time we go to the web UI. So those two boxes checked. We hit save, confirming that we're going to add the redirect, hit continue. It'll restart the web service. So it'll ask us to continue on that, which will also force us to log back in. Now the web interface is only available on this IP. Something that's a nicety, if you go back over here to settings and scroll down the bottom, show console messages. these are the messages that come up on a console. You can actually have them show up down here. Makes them clickable if you're wondering what's going on with the system or you want to see some of the output and leave it at the bottom. That little checkbox is a nice feature. Now let's go over to System, Advanced Settings, scroll down here to Allowed IP addresses. And we've restricted it only to that interface, but this lets us further restrict, if you want, to an entire subnet or even an individual IP. So we can add 172.16.16.0/24, and that will allow that IP range, or you can get much more specific and say only this IP, or add as many as you need. These IPs are able to access the web interface to log in. This may not be necessary, but if you're looking for a really solid lockdown environment, it's good to have this level of restriction so only those hosts are able to even get to the web interface to even attempt to log in. And it does have a warning down here at the bottom that says, make sure you add your client IP address to the list, otherwise you will lose access to the TrueNAS UI. I'm not going to save this. I just want to point out it's there for those of you that want to lock it down further. Now let's go over to System, then Services. By default, these are off, but as you set up TrueNAS, you turn on different services on an as-needed basis. But it's always good to double check to see if you've left something on that's not in use, and you should probably turn that off. While we're here, let's configure the SSH service, which is on. And we want to make sure this is not checked for allow password authentication. You can also go down here to advanced settings and specifically bind it to an interface. Now I've named this interface management because this does interface binding, not IP binding for SSH, but it achieves the same goal of that is where our management lives. So we're going to check that box. And now instead of being available on all interfaces, it's only available on that particular interface. And we're going to go ahead and hit save. So now we've restricted SSH to using key authentication and only available on that interface. Make sure if you're using something like ZFS replication inside of TrueNAS, you do have it available on the interfaces that you're using for ZFS replication. And the same goes for configuring other services. So let's look at SMB, look at the advanced settings. And you can see this doesn't give you interface bindings. It binds to IP addresses. So once again, you can choose them by the IP and add each one that you're using that service on. I probably don't need it on my management. I'll leave it on this one. I just wanted to show you that you could do multiple IPs. Save. And now that service is locked down to that interface. And you can do the same for NFS. Go here at the top. By default, it's going to bind to everything. But if we get specific and say we're only going to bind it to that interface, then we can go down here and hit save, and NFS is now restricted to that interface. And the same would apply for other services such as iSCSI, but this has a more complicated configuration. And when you run the wizard, it will go through and ask you what interfaces or IP addresses you want to restrict it to. Now, the NVMe over Fabric is a new feature. I haven't really used it, but it has some other specific settings when you're setting it up under sharing that allows levels of restrictions. Now let's head over to shares. And starting with the Windows SMB share, we're going to click Edit, Advanced, and there is an option for Hosts Allow and Hosts Deny. And if you click on the Help icon, it lets you see it can do single IP with comma for each IP and offers CIDR notation. And this applies for both the Hosts Allow and for the Host Deny options. And this is done on a per share basis. Now let's go to the NFS shares. We click on Edit. By default, it allows all. We already did bind it to a specific interface, but you can further narrow it down to networks, or most often in NFS, you're setting it up to explicitly say only these hosts, and you would add the IP addresses of the hosts that you want to be able to access this NFS share. We'll close this. The other two services under shares, the iSCSI and NVMe over Fabric, both have their own much more complicated configs, and they will ask you, such as when iSCSI is set up, what interfaces and hosts you want to allow. And with NVMe over Fabric, something similar. We'll walk you through really quick here. Going to the test, next, and we're going to change it from allow any host to add. And there's a full set of authentication options here. Due to the complexity of both of these, it's out of scope for me to really dive deep into them because they're their own topics in a future video, but you get the idea that you can do restrictions on either of these as to what interfaces they're attached to and how things authenticate or access them. Now that we've configured all of these settings, let's go over here to System, back to Advanced, Manual Configuration, Download File. This is the way you save all the configuration changes that we made because they're not stored on your data set. They're all stored on a boot drive. This configuration file that I'm saving is a complete set of those configs. So if I ever needed to restore TrueNAS or I lost the boot drive, I can go through, load TrueNAS, and then upload this file, and all those settings will come back in. Now, a few last tips that are less about hardening, but a whole lot more about housekeeping when it comes to TrueNAS and ZFS. And that is first, making sure scrubs are enabled. Good news is they're enabled by default. If you go over to Storage Dashboard, Storage Health, there's an option to adjust how often the scrubs run. By default, out of the box on a new install right now, they're going to run once a month. A lot of questions come up around data sets and how often you should snapshot them. ZFS snapshots are an amazing feature, allowing you to roll back or even potentially recover from a ransomware event. I've got an entire dedicated video you'll find linked in the forum post on that topic. Or those who are wondering about when it comes to physical security and encrypting the data set, so if someone were to pull drives out or physically take your TrueNAS, how would that work? Well, I've got a whole video on ZFS and encryption and how it works within TrueNAS. So if you're worried about that type of threat of someone physically taking your box and getting into it, that video covers how to set them up with keys and passphrases and how to make sure you can lock your data so if someone does physically get access to your entire NAS, it would not be easy or even really possible outside of guessing whatever passphrase you used to get that data off of that system. Hopefully that helps. Like I said, you'll find in the description the forum post where you can also engage with me. So join the forums if you want to have a more in-depth discussion about this or other topics. Like and subscribe and all those fun things, or hit me up on the socials over at lawrencesystems.com. Thanks.